Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, no Anthony Davis, no Rui Hachimura, and no win for the Lakers in Memphis as they finish the road trip 1-4. We'll break it all down next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, this one's always free and never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with 26,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are ready for this road trip to be over, just like the Lakers are. 1-4, the Lakers finish after starting 3-0 on the season. So they are now returning to LA for Friday's game against Philadelphia at 4-4.
An Embiid-less Philadelphia, we know
yes.
for sure, because he got suspended for the altercation might be too strong, but the shove that he gave to a reporter, Marcus Hayes, who frankly crossed a line with a column that wrote about Joel Embiid. Embiid can't do that, but
anyway, the Lakers lose to the Grizzlies 131-114. It was one of those games, Andy. No Anthony Davis, as he was listed as questionable. I believe he warmed up, but did
warm up.
Yeah, but didn't play. So that was at least a good sign.
He did a shoot around. I don't know if he warmed up, but he did a shoot around.
They they didn't have him in street clothes all day, so that at least is a positive sign for his ability to play, if not Friday, then reasonably soon.
JJ Redick did say before the game that for the time being, this was at least as of pregame Wednesday, he was not ruling out AD from playing, and it sounded like he, if not expected AD to play, was reasonably confident AD would play. That said that they're also going to be very strident in how they monitor this thing.
Yes, quite careful. They will be taking no risks here, nor should they. Rui Hachimura woke up sick on Thursday, Wednesday, so he was unavailable too. So now you have Dalton Connect in your starting lineup and Jackson Hayes against the Memphis Grizzlies. Granted, a shorthanded Grizzlies team, but the Lakers lose this game. They put up a good fight, but they lose ultimately 131-114. It was one of those games where, again, the Grizzlies are down. Desmond Bane's not available, among others, and Ja Morant ended up leaving the game in the second half with a hamstring problem. But they did have Jaren Jackson. They had Ja for a lot of the game. And overall, I think, honestly, you see this was an instance where you could see the value of a bench, because the Grizzlies got, even, shorthanded, got tremendous production from their reserves. A bit of a former Lakers G Leaguer / two-way contract revenge game. Scottie Pippen Jr., 14 points for the Grizzlies. Jay Huff, 11. Colin Castleton only played 2 minutes, so he didn't get in on the fun. But the Grizzlies are collecting former back-of-the-roster Lakers, and they're playing pretty well. But, that was just a couple of the contributions that they got throughout the game. And, Brandon Clark had a couple big buckets. Jake LaRavia had a couple big buckets. And that bench production, when you compare what they got to what the Lakers got outside of Cam Reddish, it was pretty pronounced. And so that was one of the big issues in this game. To me, in terms of shorthanded team versus shorthanded team, their depth was significantly better than the Lakers.
And also, too, the things that the Grizzlies do very well, particularly when they had Ja and an assortment of bigs, they are one of, if not the best team in the league at paint scoring. They are one of, if not the best team in the league, second chance points. I've looked up these numbers. I just don't have them all off the top of my head, but I can confirm top 5, top 7 in all of them, if not tops.
Good at it.
But I mean, like, very, very good at it. They are one of the best teams in the league, fast break points. And when you take into account Ja, who, despite now taking threes and even making threes, he's still a dude that lives in the paint, attacking the rim relentlessly. And Jaren Jackson Jr., Salty Aldama, who's having a terrific season, and all the other, Zach Edey, Huff, all these different guys that they have. They had 60 points in the paint against the Lakers. Even acknowledging the Lakers' paint becomes extremely vulnerable without AD and to some extent without Rui. They really just live there.
Yeah, no question. Do want to let people know, quick reminder, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I mean, it's hard to get too angry with the result in the sense that if you told me before the game started that Rui and AD weren't going to play, I would say, I don't think the Lakers are going to win. And that's exactly what happened. The Lakers made a game of it really until sort of the dam broke near the end of the third going into the fourth.
Well, it actually got off to a bad start at the top of the third. Memphis made, I think, 3 threes in like the.
They did, but the Lakers were still in
it.
They kind of kept chipping back into a reasonable.
Sure. I just mean like the gap that they started to close at the half immediately got bigger and required the Lakers to do more catching up as opposed to trying to break ahead. Yeah. I do think, though, in the first half of the game, this is something I tweeted out at Cam Brothers, just the Lakers appeared more dialed in, just purely dialed in. I tweeted this during the first half against Memphis than Monday in Detroit. And like, I know that a young, bouncy, super athletic team like the Pistons can make an older team like the Lakers look slow. But I thought the Lakers just looked much more engaged, just purely they didn't always play well. Like they didn't, they were missing a lot.
No, Redick talked a lot about their execution, and he actually pulled, and we'll get into it maybe in the next segment. He pulled D'Angelo Russell for basically the second half of the game, based on attention to detail, effort, things like that.
But they were playing hard in the first half, and it really, I think that tone was very specifically set by LeBron.
Yeah,
like LeBron really seemed determined to put the team on his back, carry him. He had 39 points, 15 of 24 from the field, 6 of 11 from behind the arc, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Obviously could have had more if guys were making shots. He had a really fun back and forth, him and Ja in the first half, like exchanging buckets, both going to the rim. Ja got a tech for jawing and bumping LeBron a little bit. Like, it's funny, like, that the energy from LeBron is always a really tricky thing, because in case you have not heard, season 22 pushing 40.
What?
And there is a reality that comes with LeBron at this stage of his career, and it is not unique to other aging superstars, where they are not going to be able to bring that requisite level of energy every night. And even though it may be understandable, you have to find ways to offset it, because teams more often than not take their energy cues from their superstars. And I think sometimes when LeBron's energy is not as high, the whole teams can go in reverse. But on a night like tonight, where LeBron from the outset was bringing it, I'm sure there is an element of, oh man, Pops is out there busting his ass. We gotta match this.
For sure. And I think that's part of it. I think that, it's also an issue of, you have Jackson Hayes in the starting lineup, you have Dalton Connecton. So these guys are, if nothing else, are going to go out and play hard. And the Lakers as a team, understanding the only way we're going to have a chance to win this game is if we really go out. And you're right, LeBron has to set the tone in terms of the effort. And he did. It just wasn't enough. It was interesting to hear Redick talking after the game, especially when you compare his comments Wednesday versus his comments following the Phoenix game, which started the trip. So we'll break that down next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Skims. I'm actually really picky about underwear. I only wear boxer briefs. I like them to have a certain feel, certain tightness. It's like Goldilocks. They got to be just right. And when I heard that we could get some Skims, I don't mind, man. And when I heard that we could get some Skims underwear, my first thought was Skims makes men's underwear? And yeah, they do. A lot of different styles. And then my second thought was, am I going to like them? And the answer is, oh, hell yeah. And I tried both the 3-inch length and 5-inch length boxer briefs. And the only difference is one's 3 inches long, one's 5 inches
2
long.
inches. That's the difference.
Yeah. I mean, they feel exactly the same, which is awesome. They are really soft, really comfortable. They don't bunch up. I highly recommend this because, again, I imagine a lot of folks out there didn't even realize this was an option for you dudes out there. So shop Skims men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey, then select our show in the drop-down menu that follows Locked on Lakers, so they know we sent you. And if you are looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. That is also available at skims.com.
So for those of you who may have missed the show following the road trip opening game, the loss to Phoenix, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we did kind of talk at length about the tone that JJ Redick took, particularly after Anthony Davis really held the team to account just on the on-court interview with Mike Trudell from Spectrum Sportsnet, like AD talking where this isn't good enough, it's unacceptable, and so on and so on and so on. And Redick was actually pretty charitable. Now I don't know if he had heard AD's comments or had talked or whatever it might be, or if he just felt like, you know what, first loss of the year against a good team, and those types of things. Like I can back off and not go scorched earth here. When you look at what he said Wednesday, he was far more pointed in his criticism, which was interesting when, in a game where, typically you might see a coach be like, look, we were shorthanded, really proud of everyone's effort. We came out, he's like, nope, we weren't good enough. The attention to detail wasn't there. And to like the point of what we were talking about in the last segment, it's almost if like the expectations for do your job, dot your I's, cross your T's was higher for Redick on a night like Wednesday when they were short players, as opposed to having more sympathy for a team that was missing two of its best players. I thought that was really interesting. Like, okay, step up your attention to detail on a night where that's going to matter even more.
It was really interesting to me listening to Redick in this post-game presser. Like, I don't suspect that he ever thought this job would be easy. Like, as much as I think JJ Redick is a super confident guy who I think fancies himself, if not the smartest guy in the room, among the smartest in any room that he walks into, I don't think he is so confident and so taken with his intelligence that he thought this job would be easy. But during this press conference, it sounded to me like this may be, if nothing else, the moment where he voiced his recognition of just how difficult this job is over 82 games, because the level of mystified in his tone, talking about players missing details, and he explained to us some of the details that he laid out for them. Like, say what you will about whatever you think with Redick's approach to coaching, if you think the Lakers got snowed in hiring or whatever, but he is, if nothing else, very specific when he talks to us. He does not throw around platitudes. Mm-hmm. And you could just tell in his head, his thought bubble is just, what the F, people? Like, I'm telling you this stuff and you're not following it, and I don't understand why.
I'm not sure I totally agree with that interpretation in terms of like, I don't understand why, but I get the sense of exasperation of like, there are only so many times I feel like it's like a parent or a teacher or like the children. There are only so many times I should have to repeat myself before you do what I'm asking you to do. And, as a dad, got 3 kids, I certainly sympathize with that. But
but even with you knowing this is what kids do,
just do it.
Right.
Yeah, but I totally. But what I think stuck out to me was that And I agree with you. That tone was definitely there, that certain sense of exasperation and frustration, not necessarily even at the final score, but like how they arrived at this place. Like, how did we make certain mistakes? How do we allow ourselves to make certain mistakes that made it impossible for us to win? Not that we have to be perfect. We're not going to make every shot. Like, we missed a ton of open shots and all that. And they certainly did. The 3-point shooting was atrocious in this game. The Lakers shot 31%. 15 of 48. And if you take away LeBron's 6 of 11, my math tells me that is 9 for 37, which is under 25%. So the problem,
Cam Reddish hit both the ones he took. He's like,
hey,
pick up your slack asses out there.
Right.
Cam Reddish actually had another nice game.
I thought he played nicely. Yeah, I mean, I everybody knows my feeling about Reddish, and everybody, this is sort of subtle. This is how it works typically with Reddish at the beginning of every year. It happened in Portland. It happened in Atlanta every year. Like, you get some good games and then it doesn't sustain itself. But they need it. I mean, you could see, and we'll get to Koloko in the next segment. At the very least, I think what you notice with those guys on the floor is just a little bit more bounciness. And Reddish kept himself available. He moved around, a little Vanderbiltian vibe to him in the sense, little cuts, little whatever, get yourself on the baseline. LeBron James will find you for an easy basket.
Yeah,
like
15
that happened a couple times.
Like, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals.
I'll take
it. Got to the line 4 times, 5 of 7 from the field.
I got no complaints about Cam Reddish.
This is also too, we talked about plus minus with Cam in the last game. Lot o' minuses in the group tonight. Cam was at a 0.
You know who was a +3?
Bronny.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Playing 48, JJ, you coward. So I think, look, I would love for this to be the year that, like, Cam Reddish breaks through. It's a great story. It's great for the Lakers. They could really use, as they say in Animal House, we needed the dues. So I don't have a problem with it. And he played well, and he's going to play more on Friday. I don't think there's any question.
Right.
But you see, like, with Redick, it wasn't just the exasperation of, why aren't you doing these things that I have told you to do? Not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. It's also, okay, fine. If you're not going to do them, I'm going to put people in who will. And he held D'Angelo Russell out of the last 17 minutes of this game because D'Lo and Redick said he's been good at times. He's been not so good at times with following the principles and the things that we're asking him to do. And on Wednesday, he was bad and he sat. And it's not like they've got 15 guys behind him where you go, all right, well, that guy's breathing down his neck. D'Lo better be careful. He's putting in Gabe Vincent, who's been terrible and wasn't, again, decent.
He was better in this game.
A little better, but he still finished 1 of 6 from the floor.
Yeah, it is. Again, I thought he was, first of all, that he put up 8 shots.
Sorry, 2 of 8, 1 of 6 from 3, 2 of 8.
Yeah, that he put up 8 shots, a few of them in garbage time, but nonetheless, like, just seeing Gabe Vincent and Max Christie both put up 8. Apparently, they will only take the same amount of shots, whether 8 or 0 in a game. They've got like some type of pact.
Those are your choices, 8.
But like 0. Just seeing them put up shots is in and of itself feels like some type of uphill battle. But they did.
And, and Christie had a couple buckets go in late that maybe could be helpful to him, just seeing the ball go in. Vincent, same kind of thing. But, he sat his starting point guard for the latter half of the game because he was not, and, that's different than sitting Dalton Connect, but who also, by the way, left the game. We got hit in the face. And then Jackson Hayes played through it, but they looked like, sort of lower hamstring, upper calf kind of thing that
landed awkwardly.
Yeah, landed awkwardly. It looked like the kind of thing that were it me, I'd have trouble walking for 2 weeks afterwards, but we'll see. Hopefully he's okay for Friday. It's different to sit your point guard, your starting point guard, than it is to sit a rookie to take Max Christie and give his minutes to Reddish because he's doing, like, that is a statement of accountability for important players. And it sends the message to the other guys in the rotation, like, look, I'll do it to him. So at the very least, everyone needs to be following directions and doing it conscientiously and taking care of these details. So we'll see how D'Lo responds. Shot the ball, same script for D'Lo as it's been through the other 7 games. Shot the ball poorly, and yeah, it's got to improve. Reeves can't be on a night where there's no AD and no Rui. You need more than 4 of 18 in combination from 3-point range from Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. Reeves was better than Russell, but he wasn't.
Reeves was also very backloaded. His 7 of 17, he was 2 of 10 in the first half from the field. I think 0 of 6 from 3-point range. Like Reeves, I'll give him credit for playing hard, but he was not bringing what they needed on a night with no AD, no Rui.
Let's talk about Christian Koloko, because that was a good story that came out of Wednesday's game. He makes his season debut, and we'll give it a review next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, just $5, an Abe Lincoln, and you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And this is really important because let's just say you're one of those people that when you watch an NFL game, it feels like you get a sense for what's going to happen really, really early on. Like you can just predict every touchdown pass, every busted run, every critical turnover, momentum changes, whatever. If you get those sort of hunches, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. So everything's streamlined. Just join FanDuel.com to join today. Visit FanDuel.com. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets when you place that first $5 bet and you win it. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So I'll put it this way. It's not good that the Lakers needed to play Christian Koloko in Wednesday's game. That wasn't good. It was good, however, to see Christian Koloko play.
Yeah.
If people understand what I mean by that. Like, you want AD on the floor. You don't want to have to go to a guy who has, as LeBron pointed out after the game, Koloko hasn't practiced with them yet. And he hasn't practiced after the last game the guy played was in April, not the one we just had a few months ago, but of 2023. So he hasn't had a practice. He gets cleared and he comes out and like his first run is like, in a game where they're keeping score for the real live standings and everything. So like that's suboptimal. But the flip side of that is we're talking about a guy who, because of this blood clotting issue that he had, and he was pulled off the floor for medical reasons. It is great to see a young player be able to put himself back in a place where he can just play, like just forget, play well, play poorly, justify your contract, earn more, whatever, just play, just to get out on the floor. And like, so that was cool to see. And the guy's bouncy. I mean, you can, the athleticism, it's a little like Jackson Hayes in that sense, but like compared to a lot of the players the Lakers have coming off their bench, players with that level of athleticism really stand out.
First, you could feel the happiness from him just as he checked into the game. Like he was happy to be checking in. I believe he was actually quite literally smiling. And I don't blame him because this is something that I'm sure he was wondering, will I ever be able to do this again? He's also, I'm sure, wondering, is this blood clot issue something that's going to hamper my life in dozen other different ways, whatever. So it's just got to be reassuring at such a young age to feel like this is hopefully behind you, controllable, all of that stuff. As you noted, he is a very bouncy, athletic kid. He did have we talked before with Sean Woodley from Locked On Raptors with a scouting report on Koloko, and he said that one of his biggest hindrances offensively was hands. And there was a play where I don't remember who it was, but someone shot on the ball inside and he fumbled it and it went out of bounds. And he could not hang on to it. But there was another play too, though, where he ran the baseline, got fed, and scored at the rim. It was a really nice play, again, considering he has not played in so long and has never played with any of these guys. The athleticism is there. He had a block on Ja Morant. That was actually the sequence that led to Ja getting hurt. Ja landed very, very awkwardly and didn't return, in part because they did not need him.
I hope that I don't say this because he is the starting point guard for my fantasy team. Ja Morant is one of my favorite players in the NBA. Yes. He is incredibly fun to watch.
Yes, he is.
And I hope for basketball,
yes,
that this isn't a month-long absence or all those other things, because like we didn't get a lot of Ja, and it's Ja's fault. We didn't get a lot of Ja, but we didn't get a lot of Ja last year, and the NBA is a better place when Ja Morant plays 65 games, 70 games a year.
Absolutely. I mean, he is incredibly fun to watch play. I think when he is focused on the right things and ignoring all the wrong things, I think his personality shines on the court in ways that is fantastic. I'm like you. I'm rooting for the guy to keep everything together and stay on the court, stay healthy, because he is just incredibly fun. As far going back to Koloko, though, I mean, he is clearly raw. He is clearly going to spend, at least initially, some time with the G League, just getting his timing going, getting himself back up to speed. But if nothing else, this sample size did show why the Lakers would be intrigued by him. It does not show that he is definitively capable of playing the role that they need from him. Even as somebody, I've said before, from what I've read about him, listened to Sean Woodley, some other stuff I've checked out, I am optimistic at the guy that the guy could help a little bit, at least in some spot duty at times. But either way, you didn't walk away from this game going, I don't see it at all. I don't see this.
There's again, athleticism, all that other stuff, and hopefully again they don't need him, and they can let him get 10 games in the G League and all that before he's relied on at the NBA level. But I agree. I mean, it's a good signing. It's one of these things, like the frustration that Lakers fans have with the sameness of the roster from last year to this year, with not filling that very obvious hole that they had in there, particularly after the news around Christian Wood came. Like, I get the frustration. And like, they sign a center, and the hope is that center can fill that void. Except it's not. Those are not related transactions. They signed Koloko because they saw a guy with potential who, coming off a long absence, but who showed a little something as a second round pick a couple of years ago. That is a different type of transaction than you sign a guy. Like, if you want to sign a G League player because you think you can help you a little bit more right away, and you're not necessarily trying to, create something for the long term or whatever, you sign Jay Huff, or something like that, an older player, a guy with less total upside perhaps, but, a little more likely to come in and do it. Like Koloko played a lot of minutes with Toronto in 23 because their entire team was hurt, not because he was like ready to go. He is a very raw NBA prospect, and to be raw and out of practice, it's just too much to expect anything other than spot minutes with maximum effort, which is exactly what he gave them on Wednesday. So I got no problem with how he played.
No, and again, it was just cool to see him out there. It's funny too. I know just from looking at our Twitter feed at Cam Brothers, seeing Scottie Pippen Jr. on the court, seeing Jay Huff on the court, two former G Leaguers, it sparked some questions.
Two-way guys. I think they even had him all the way up on the two ways.
Yes, they've been two-way guy. Like, we may talk a little bit for Friday's show leading up to the Philly game, just about that question again of the Lakers identifying talent, their dedication to developing talent, particularly in light of this being the year that they've talked about it so much, but also two, this being the year where the young talent that they have, Dalton Connect aside, but a lot of the younger talent that you were supposed to spot and develop seems spotty.
Yeah. And, Connect, before he got hurt, wasn't lighting the world on fire. He was 1 of 7, all shots from 3-point range, 3 points in 27 minutes. So it's not like, yes, I know he left the game after he got hurt, but like it was not a distinguished game from Connect. If this version of Scottie Pippen is on the Lakers, who's playing right now, Scottie Pippen or Gabe Vincent?
Scottie Pippen.
Damn right.
Scottie Pippen. It's not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
You find a way that he might take Max Christie's minutes.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I was like, I don't understand what the problem is here. This guy can clearly play. I thought he was too small. He didn't play this well when he played in the spot minutes with the Lakers. And guys get a little older. They get a little more experience. Maybe you get into a slightly different system that plays better to your strengths, whatever it might be. Pippen is playing much better now, which is awesome. Good for him. And he's earned his way into like a real NBA career at this point, which is, again, hard as an undersized player. But that being said, I think heard you mention this on the Lakers Talk show on 710 ESPN. It's like, we didn't see it, but we have a podcast.
Yeah.
If David Locke says it's our job to see that kind of potential in players like Scottie Pippen and we miss it, it may be a problem. It is the job of the Lakers to recognize the potential of these types of players and keep them. And they did not do it.
If we misdiagnose players, it opens us up to mockery. It opens us up to charges of being frauds, whatever, and
add it to the list.
Right. Sure. I was going to say we hear that stuff with things we get right.
Almost 2 decades we've been hearing that now.
But there are no stakes to us being right or wrong and not being able to see it. There are definitely stakes. There are definitely stakes for the Lakers. Last thing I wanted to point out, though, from this game before we go, speaking of G League players and two-way players, in like the last couple minutes of this game, the two-way player Yuki Kawamura from Japan got on the court. He's part of Memphis's, I guess, G League. He's on a two-way deal. He is listed at 5'8", 159, and both seem exaggerated. You could make an argument that is more impressive in its own right than LeBron still being in the league at 40, season 22. In its own right, that's more impressive.
I have said many times to anyone, in any conversation, if you can play in the NBA at 6 feet tall, you're doing something incredibly special. If you can manage to play a minute of NBA basketball and have somebody think you're worthy of a minute of their time or even a roster spot when you're under 6 feet tall, if you can have a career like somebody like Nate Robinson did, like if Nate Robinson was a foot taller, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. Short people amazing.
And slight.
Amazing.
5'8", like it's not even like he's like 5'8", but he's a fire hydrant.
Like Desmond Bain arms.
Derek Fisher was listed at 6'1". I think that was generous. Dude was a rock. Like maybe the TV, it doesn't translate, but Kawamura does not look like he's a rock. He looked like a child out there. He looked like a middle school kid.
Think how little Bronny looks when he plays, and he looks like a little baby. Like, oh, you're so cute, little guy.
Yes.
Bronny is 4 inches taller.
And way more chiseled. Like Bronny's. Yeah, Bronny's at least strong. Like you look at him, you're like, if you saw Bronny on the street, you'd be like, I don't want to mess with that guy.
No,
like
Bronny is 6'2", 210.
If I saw Kawamura on the street, I'd be like, why aren't you in school, little boy? It's
23
crazy.
years old. But like this is a guy who, if he wasn't, on a two-way with Memphis, would be hustling the hell out of people at Venice Beach. Like Marcel Huertas. All right. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where we can go hang out with over 26,000 subscribers to the channel. LockedOnDaily.com is where you go get the newsletter. I was supposed to mention that earlier, so everyone go sign up for it because I forgot. It makes us look good. We'll see everyone tomorrow.